I'm Kabir. I'm the founder of Botanic, and we specialize in herbal supplements here in the UK. We manufacture it ourselves. And you're Shawn Wells, biochemist, nutritionist, dietitian, formulator, author.
That's
I've got
it.
your book,
Author.
read it
Yeah.
back to front, many notes in there. It's my go-to book. Very interesting book, very interesting ingredients that you've spoken about.
Great. I love that you're digging into it.
Ingredients are obviously you've mentioned in the book. It's berberine, our Berberine Advance. So this has glucovantage, dihydroberberine, has fast grown to be selling product. So we really want to take this opportunity to speak to yourself and ask you the questions that we get asked from our customers regarding berberine and dihydroberberine. And we thought who to best ask the questions about yourself, the world's greatest formulator.
Okay, amazing. I would love to talk about dihydroberberine and your Berberine Advance. Let's do it.
So we get this question asked quite often. It's in two parts. One being, what are the primary benefits of a berberine supplement? And the second part into that is, what distinguishes dihydroberberine from a standard berberine supplement?
Both great questions. To me, this is the #1 supplement after a multivitamin, maybe after a probiotic and some kind of basic maintenance kind of ingredients that I would find in supplements that I think everyone should have. This is the one ingredient that I think everyone should have is dihydroberberine. Because 87%, at least here in America, 87% of Americans are metabolically dysfunctional. Almost 9 out of 10 of us are metabolically dysfunctional, where we don't have a proper metabolism. We can't work with glucose very well. We're glucose dysregulated. We have glucose intolerance. We have insulin insufficiency. And so this is going to be a game changer for that. And this is why so many people are seeing benefits on drugs like Metformin and semaglutide and Ozempic and all these kinds of drugs. And one of the mechanisms like Metformin works on is AMP-K right now, because people are seeing massive benefit to anti-aging as well as to improving their metabolic health. And so there's nothing more important than that, because almost all diseases are tied to metabolic health. About 99% of disease is tied to metabolic health. About 99% of the way we age is tied to metabolic health. So if you can approach this in a way that you can deal with those things, you're going to have healthier aging, longer lifespan, but more importantly, longer health span, where you hopefully live disease-free. That's the health span. That's the difference between health span and lifespan. And then you're going to have a healthier amount of energy, because that's at the core of metabolic dysfunction is mitochondrial dysfunction. So that's at the core of that. And the mitochondria, if you remember, produce ATP, the cellular energy, currency in the body that keeps us running. So this is why when people get on berberine, and I'll get into dihydroberberine and why it's better, they're experiencing increased energy, better aging, decreased fat mass, and less issues across the board as they age. And so this is like, to me, this is like the most important thing you can take for healthy aging. And you know, Metformin has been popular for that for over 30 years. That's been a secret to a lot of the biohackers, a lot of the anti-aging longevity crowd has been Metformin. And then berberine came along out of Indian medicine, and people are like, oh, wow, this is actually super effective. But they were getting GI distress. It had a lot of bioavailability issues. And so you also had to take large doses several times a day. And that's when I started looking into this, because I love those mechanisms. I love AMP-K. I love GLP-1. And I was like, well, is there a better way that we can do a berberine? And that's when I discovered that its metabolite is dihydroberberine. So basically at the gut, berberine converts to dihydroberberine. And so I was thinking, well, what if I give dihydroberberine? Would I take away the GI distress? Would I improve the bioavailability? Would I potentially lower the doses and number of times a day you take it? Would I enhance this product greatly? Would I reduce the amount of bio individuality that you're seeing, where some people convert berberine well and then other people don't? So it has a wide array of kind of results for people too. And sure enough, when we gave dihydroberberine first in animals and then in humans, that's what we saw: less bioindividuality, pretty much standard effects across the board, improved metabolic rate, decreased amount like that you need to take, the dose, and also decreased frequency because it lasts longer in plasma. So you only need to take it twice a day instead of 3 times a day. And instead of 500 milligrams, it's 100 to 200 milligrams because it has a 5x bioavailability. And this is something that you don't have to take my word. This isn't hype. What I love about this stuff is everyone can prove it. Everyone can have a glucose meter, a glucometer, and even the ones, the CGMs that you put on your tricep, and you can see. And I have people write me all the time that, like, I had a piece of chocolate cake and my blood sugar didn't change a bit because I took dihydroberberine. I mean, it's crazy the stories I get. This stuff is super effective.
We've had a lot of customers ourselves as well that used to take standard berberine supplements, and they were having the gut issues, discomfort, and they switched over to taking our advanced berberine with your dihydroberberine in there. And for them, it's been super great. They've loved it. But we do still have a few customers that have said they have slight issues. Now, we've recommended to them to take a lower dosage rather than 2 capsules a day, to take 1 capsule a day of 150 milligram, or to take 1 every other day. Is there anything else you think you can add to that, or any suggestions that you can make?
Yeah, you don't necessarily, you could try like lowering the dose, but what I think I would do is have them take it instead of ahead of food, take it with food. Yeah, and I think that should lower the like GI distress. I would say instead of like with berberine where, probably, I don't know, anywhere from like a third to a half of the people that use berberine have side effects. With dihydroberberine, it might be like you're saying, like 1 in 20,
That's
something
right.
like
That's
that.
right.
It's pretty rare. But that's what I would do, is just take it with food at the same time. And then I would also try, like you're saying, lowering the dose, potentially, and then taking it more frequently, especially if you eat smaller meals more frequently.
Okay, brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
You'd recommend to take it before food, about 15 to 20 minutes before food, or if they have any sort of discomfort, have it with alongside food when they have their main meals.
Correct. Yeah.
We get asked this question. Some people take metformin already as part of their medications. Can they take dihydroberberine alongside metformin?
That's a tough one. I mean, I'm not their
Yeah,
pharmacist, their doctor, all those kinds of things. I mean, it's something that I think you would work closely with an endocrinologist, and then, you start to record your glucometer readings, and then you'd probably titrate things where, something's going up or down a little bit, and, you can kind of like play with it.
yeah.
But absolutely, like I said, dihydroberberine or even berberine is going to have significant, real clinical effects like that you can measure. So it's not like just some random supplement that you kind of hope and pray works. This is something that definitely works. So, if you have an endocrinologist that you're working with, or a nutritionist or dietitian that you're working with, and you're sending them these readings and you're saying, like, I'm trying this and that, let's try, being on more of a ketogenic diet. Let's try, lowering your glucose here in the evening. Let's try adding a dihydroberberine here. Like you can work with them on that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for that. So we've introduced a bundle, which is curcumin, because you mentioned curcumin in your book as well. We've introduced a bundle with the Berberine Advance, so the dihydroberberine with curcumin, and that's been very, very popular with customers because I think it hits two key issues: inflammation and blood sugar.
Yep.
These are the two crucial areas that I think people are very concerned with, especially in the last few years with the pandemic and so on. What's your thoughts on that, on curcumin combining with berberine?
Well, you're reading the book, so you know about my stances on really, I talk about how aging and mitochondrial / metabolic dysfunction, you'll see that crop up in three main things. You'll see it crop up in glycation, which is blood sugar damage, inflammation, and oxidation. And so what's great about this is dihydroberberine and curcumin have antioxidant effects. Berberine is addressing glycation. It also is addressing some inflammation. It also is addressing dyslipidemia to some degree. We actually see that improve. We'll see cholesterol and lipid dysregulation improve, like triglycerides, etc. You'll see that improve with dihydroberberine. And same with curcumin. You actually do see some blood sugar improvements with curcumin, which is a polyphenol. But mainly you're seeing a potent effect on inflammation, and again in lipid dysregulation as well. So really, the two do similar things and cross over, but really the strength of dihydroberberine is more blood sugar and the strength of curcumin is more inflammation. But there is some great crossover between the two, so it's an amazing stack.
Brilliant, thank you. Besides berberine, what are some of your other favorite supplements? I know you mentioned, well, I'm not going to mention it. I know you mentioned the other ingredients in the book, but besides berberine, what are your favorite supplements?
Oh, wow. Well, an area that's really interesting right now to me is the idea of gut health and gut dysfunction. Many people have a dysbiotic gut, where the gut is not functioning well. And what happens if you have a dysbiotic gut? One, you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria versus a good bacteria, which would be a probiotic gut. You have quite often with leaky gut, which will kind of be seen as well, you'll have more zonulin, what's called, and with leaky gut, you have tight junctions that are no longer tight. These cells along the gut lining that are allowing for food particles to actually get into the bloodstream before they're properly filtered or even rejected. And this creates massive amounts of inflammation and autoimmune issues. A huge concern. So you want your tight junction cells to be tight. You want to get rid of that slimy layer of zonulin so that you can actually absorb nutrients well. You want to have proper gut bacteria and mostly probiotic gut. So this is where, addressing those things are really important, because it's not just about digestion and avoiding autoimmunity and inflammation. All those are important. But about 70 to 80% of your immunity lies in your gut. About 70 to 80% of your neurotransmitters and your brain health and function lies in your gut. So serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine, all these things that you've heard about and you associate with the brain and mood and your ability to have energy, to focus, to feel, happy, these are all in your gut. And so we're not addressing this very well. So I like the idea of a symbiotic, S-Y-N, meaning synergy, the symbiotic. So we look at prebiotic, which is going to help grow bacteria. We look at probiotic, which actually are the bacterial strains. And then we look at postbiotic, with short chain fatty acids that the probiotics actually make, so that we can give all three, and collectively it's known as a symbiotic. And by the way, if you're addressing neurotransmitters with these probiotics, they're known as psychobiotics, and it's a huge category right now, looking at how we address brain health and mood with bacteria. So looking at these three, like probably three of my favorite, prebiotic is Pre4 Pro, which is a phage, Phage, which means to eat. So it actually eats the bacteria, the bad bacteria, and grows the good bacteria. So this is like a smart prebiotic. Whereas some of these other short chain fibers are kind of dumb prebiotics, if you will. The phage is a smart prebiotic. Then I like getting certain probiotics, potentially something like that's spore-based, something that's really stable. A lot of these probiotics that you're buying on the market are not very stable, and chances are they're not getting to you in a very usable form. Even the dead probiotics actually still have benefit. There's still some, it's kind of more of like a prebiotic benefit. But ideally, I would get something that's stable, that can hold up to more heat, more moisture, and these kinds of things. So something like DE111 is a really interesting form of bacillus that's a spore-based one that's very stable. And then lastly, tributyrin, which is the triglyceride form of butyric acid. Butyrate, butyric acid, is the short chain fatty acid in the gut that's most important to gut health. That's a 4-carbon short chain fatty acid. There also is, and they're less studied, but I think potentially just as important, we'll see more research coming on, is propionic acid, which is C3, and acetic acid, which you've probably heard of from vinegar, which is C2, the shortest chain fatty acid you can possibly have. It's just 2 carbons. And that's a really interesting compound as well. And why you're hearing all this stuff about apple cider vinegar and, you know, all these kinds of things for gut health having an impact on blood pressure, blood sugar, etc. It's true. Vinegar, it doesn't necessarily need to be apple cider vinegar, although you do get the benefit of the mother, which is the term for that cloud of bacteria, the acetobacteria that's at the bottom, which is helpful. So it is like a probiotic drink with a postbiotic short chain fatty acid, the shortest chain fatty acid. So vinegar is really interesting, and you are seeing a lot of benefits there. So that would be kind of my ultimate blend, is like Pre4 Pro, DE111, tributyrin, and maybe taking some apple cider vinegar here and there throughout the day.
And are you working on any other interesting ingredients?
Tons, tons. I think if you've heard about, like, probably the one that, you know, I'm living off of now, most of my life, I have not been able to do caffeine. I am very bad with caffeine. I have the ADORA 2A issue, the CYP 1A issue, like where I do not convert caffeine well. I'm left with caffeine for, you know, days potentially when I consume it. This is very common for some of us. About 60% of us are slow metabolizers of caffeine. This isn't like a rare condition or something. So the majority of us do not handle caffeine well. We get more side effects than benefits. We get the anxiety, the sleep disruption, the brain fog, all these kinds of issues, heart dysrhythmia, kind of arrhythmia. And we're not getting as much of the benefits that other people are seeing. And so paraxanthine, which is a caffeine metabolite that I've worked on, is incredible at solving this. I get all the benefits and none of the side effects. Like, really, it's quite incredible. For me, caffeine ends up being about a 10.5-hour half-life, meaning like literally that 3 days later, I still have it in my system. This paraxanthine is about a 3-hour half-life. And so I can literally work out in the evening at 6 p.m. and still get great sleep. My HRVs actually improve by using paraxanthine, whereas they worsen dramatically by using caffeine. And when we did a study with athletes, we did a 10K race and then had them do a multitasking test before and after. When we did caffeine in that group, they ended up increasing mental errors. So, both paraxanthine and caffeine, you get the stimulation, you get the adenosine inhibition, you get the wakefulness. But with caffeine, they increased mental errors. With paraxanthine, they decreased mental errors. So what I'm seeing is that we get into more of a flow state versus a frazzled state with paraxanthine. And this is across the board. All users are getting better benefit because really the majority of the benefit of caffeine comes from paraxanthine, and avoiding the caffeine and avoiding theophylline and theobromine, the other metabolites, seems to be the cleanest effect. And so our data is showing incredible things. Our preclinical data, which is rodent data, we're seeing increased BDNF, which is neuroplasticity, increased glutathione and catalase and decreased oxidative stress, increased dopamine by 50% greater than caffeine, increased nitric oxide, it's up 50% as well. So that's increased to the brain as well as working muscles. And we're seeing decreased beta amyloid plaque, which is associated with Alzheimer's. So this is like really exciting stuff. Like we're seeing that it's actually potently neuroprotective and anti-aging to the brain. So this is a really exciting one. And if I have time, I'll tell you about like one more.
Of course.
That's really exciting for me right now, and is dileucine. We just for muscle protein synthesis for the past 100 years. So we've thought that leucine is the key. And then we also have known about this PEP1 transporter in the gut. And this PEP1 transporter prefers to take up di and tripeptides over single amino acids. And so it's interesting here. And so di and tripeptides means 2 or 3 amino acids together over the single amino acid. So this is almost counterintuitive that the 2 or 3 amino acids are actually faster to plasma, faster to your blood than the single amino acid. So it's like, what's going on there? And I've known about this for about 15 years, and I've worked on this a long time. What I didn't know then when I first started working on it is the reason why that happens, I believe, is that these are actually signaling molecules. These are now these bioregulatory peptides, and that dipeptide version has synthesis by about 60 to 80% with the dileucine. We see it get to plasma about 189% faster. So this, and by the way, taking more leucine does not improve that. It's about what's called pharmacokinetics, like how quickly and how, like it will get to plasma and how quickly it'll spike, and then turn on mTOR, which is associated with protein synthesis. So we're seeing a dramatically better way to increase muscle and protect lean muscle as we age, protecting us against sarcopenia, etc.
Brilliant. That's really interesting. Thank you, Shawn. Really a
Yeah,
wealth
you got
of
it.
information you've got. Also, final thing I want to ask you: when can I get my book signed? So what's your
Yeah, I'll
arrangement?
be speaking at Dave Asprey's event in Dallas at the end of May, beginning of June. I'll also be speaking at Hack Your Health, which is in Austin that same weekend at the end of May, beginning of June. I will also be speaking in Finland at the Biohackers Summit, and then I will be speaking at Mind Valley U in Estonia the following week. And I will have more dates, of course, coming up, but those are some of the ones that I'm thinking about off the top of my head.
Definitely, you'll be in Europe at some point in the year.
Yep, I will.
I'm gonna try and be there, and like I say, I would love to get this this copy signed.
Yeah, and you can go to energyformula.com and get the Audible version of the book, the ebook, the hardcover, the soft cover. I also have like extra items like a hidden chapter and some recipe books and stuff if you go to energyformula.com, and then follow me at Shawn Wells, ShawnWells, ShaWN. So at Shawn Wells on Instagram, on YouTube, on all the different things. And you can always DM me questions and I'll be there to help with that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Like I say, in the past, you've answered all our questions as well. We've messaged you. You've been great. Got back to us. So I really appreciate it. And
You
once
got
again,
it.
I appreciate you taking this time. Like I said, berberine is, dihydroberberine, your ingredient. So for us, it's an honor to have it and to be speaking to you.
All right. Thanks, brother. It was great
Thank you,
talking to you.
Shawn.
Have a wonderful day.
Hopefully see you soon as well. Thank you very much.
All right.